Hello, my loves. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome into this just chatting video. I am going to be chatting about the subject of our listening to our inner being. So this comes from a few things that I'm going to set up and then kind of dive right into the philosophy and the understanding and the learning that I'm coming to from this amazing shift in awareness of the inner being and the communication between myself and my inner being. So about a month and a half ago, I was really frustrated with everything, and I screamed at the top of my lungs to the universe, to my higher self, to my inner being. I'm like, why aren't you talking louder to me? Like, I was screaming. I'm like, sorry guys, okay. I thought I had something stuck in my teeth. So I'm screaming like into my inner being, my higher self. I'm like, I'm so mad at you. Why are you so quiet? Why aren't you speaking louder to me? I need you to communicate. And I was really frustrated, so freaking frustrated, because to me, I should be hearing this guidance in my head in every moment, and I'm not, and I just was feeling so frustrated. I do the inner work, I do the meditation, I am constantly looking for new thoughts, new concepts, new ideas, and applying them to my life, and I do a lot of inner work. It's like primarily what I spend most of my time doing. And so I was just really at a point of frustration. I'm like, why is none of this working? Why can't I hear this voice? What is going on? And then I picked up a book by Jerry and Esther Hicks called The Vortex. So if you're not familiar with Abraham Hicks, definitely recommend listening to some of their stuff. It's very interesting and transformational. Obviously, it's transformational. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I have found it to be very, very valuable in my life. And applying the wisdom, the knowledge, and the philosophies has really helped me. And this is like a deeper dive into Abraham's work, their work. Esther Hicks channels Abraham, and Jerry is her partner, and together they wrote this book. And what I learned from this book is, I'm going to get this quote up here because it's really perfect. Okay, so it's about your guidance system, and it's about your relationship, and it talks about your relationship with everything, but really what it comes down to is your relationship with you, your inner being. So what is the inner being? Let's kind of define that before we get into this quote. What your inner being is, as described by Abraham, is this, oh, sorry, I think it's a little loud. Okay. Is this the non-physical aspect of you. So if you know how an atom works, right? So you have the nucleus of the atom, right? And then you have like a vast amount of space around this atom, and then an electron kind of just like flying around the atom. So if we take this as a reference point, the nucleus of the atom would be the physical part of the atom. So essentially the nucleus is like us. That's our physical being. And the non-physical aspect of us would be, in the analogy of the atom, would be the space around the atom through which this electron is kind of popping in and out of probability, probable locations, if you understand quantum physics a little bit. And so I like to think of my inner being as this non-physical aspect of me, this field around me. And this was getting me for a while. I'm like, well, if it's this field around me, how can it be my inner being? So this is something that I want to just chat about for a stream, and I have to pull more facts and data in and do more research before I chat about this. But everything is a toroidal field. Everything essentially in this life that we experience is a black hole. It's like black holes within black holes within black holes interacting with each other on the macrocosmic scale and the microcosmic scale. The energy that keeps us spinning around the sun is because the sun is a black hole, essentially. This is a torus field, and we are caught in the toroidal spin of that field. And the atom itself is a toroidal field. So the space around the atom is this spinning, swirling vortex energy that's around the atom. Okay, and it totally makes sense that Abraham refers to the place where our non-physical being resides as the vortex. So for me, when I'm talking about my inner being, I know it to be the non-physical aspect of myself, and I know it to be the field around me, but that the toroidal nature of it brings the energy of the field around me in through my head and in through the center of my being. And that is where the inner being energy comes from. So it's like the center of the toroidal field. Essentially, you can think of it like the center of a black hole. That's your inner being. And if you think about it, you know, the percentage of material space that the nucleus of an atom takes up is like, I think it's 0.0001% is matter. The rest is energy. It's the same with us. So our inner beings are huge. Or huge. And because they're non-physical, they exist in the realm of probabilities, and they don't play by the same rules that we have to in a physical expression. Let me know if you have questions on that. This is the first time I'm really trying to explain this to somebody else. And I know there's varying degrees of people watching this who have different understandings and different backgrounds in this content. So I'm hoping I'm explaining it in a way that makes sense. So with that framework stated, I'm going to read you this quote from the book, The Vortex by Jerry and Esther Hicks. And then I'm going to talk about it, unpack it a little bit deeper. Okay, here's the quote. This is how your guidance system works. And remember, I was shouting to the universe to to communicate with me. Like, why aren't you communicating to me louder? Okay, well, this is talking about the guidance system. This is how your guidance system works. Whenever you feel negative emotion, it means that your active thought, no matter how you came upon it, does not match what your inner being knows about the subject. That's the quote. So, whenever you feel a negative emotion, it means that your active thought does not match what your inner being knows about the subject. Okay. So here I am, screaming at the universe, please communicate with me. Please communicate with me, higher self. I need to hear you. And here's this book telling me that every emotion is a communication between me and my inner being. Every emotion that I feel. If the emotion feels good in my body, then I am in agreement and alignment with what my inner being knows to be true. If, however, it feels like a negative emotion, that means simply that I am, whatever thought I have about the subject that's causing the bad feeling is not in agreement with what my inner being knows to be true. And it's not like my inner being's punishing me and causing me to feel this way. I feel this way because it hurts to be in a place that's out of alignment with myself, right? So we tend to feel our emotions, to express them, especially the negative ones. You know, like there's so much power in naming it and talking about where it came from and how it relates to our past and all of this other stuff of analyzing when we have negative emotions. And this book is saying that the negative emotions' true purpose is to simply communicate to you you're out of alignment with what your inner being knows to be true. Remember, your inner being's non-physical. So your inner being is like the perfect version of you that's already living in the future of everything that you could ever possibly want, right? So your inner being has that perspective. It's in the quantum. It's in this probability field that exists around you. And so it is always focused on how much it loves you. It's always focused on how to guide you to what it is that you want. It's always focused on being appreciative of who you are and everything around you. So I am going to jump into an example of this to kind of give you guys an idea of how one would apply this and what it really means. So this is really hard to explain. Hopefully I'm doing a good job at explaining it. If not, it's totally okay. All right. So here's the story. I'm waiting for my car to get work done at Dun Tire, and I'm in the waiting room. And I'm listening to my music and humming along and reading this book, The Vortex. And these two guys walk in and they sit down and they start talking about sports. And immediately I feel a negative emotion about this. I'm not happy that they're in here talking about sports and all of the things that I think about sports and all of the stories that I have are coming up for me, right? And I'm getting pretty frustrated. I'm getting like caught in like, oh my gosh, sports is all about competition. And if people just realize that what they focus on, they create, and we should be focusing on collaboration, not competition, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling all these stories to myself. And I'm being vulnerable with you guys, so I hope you don't judge me for my judgment. I'm just using it as an example, right? We're all human. Okay. So I stop and I'm like, okay, wait. I'm feeling a negative emotion. This book says that it's because my inner being knows something different about this situation than I do. Okay. So I just internally question. I'm like, all right, inner being, what is it that you know about this situation that I don't? Tell me. And I hear back. So when I say I hear back, I don't necessarily hear words in my mind, although that might be how your inner being communicates to you. Everyone has their different skills developed. So some people are clairaudient, which means they hear things. Some people are clairvoyant, which means they see images. Some people are clairsentient, which means they feel things. Some people are claircognizant, which means they just know. Okay. So I'm like a mix. My developed skills are a mix of clairsentience, which is feeling it, and claircognizance, which is just knowing it. So I don't really hear or see, but you might have a different experience with this. And I'm going to offer a meditation after this just chatting video, and I'm going to give us a meditative practice in which to go through this inquiry process that I did so that you can experience what your inner being is saying to you on whatever subject you want to focus on. But anyway, so I'm asking my inner being, okay, tell me what you know to be true about this subject. And so I'm just kind of hearing what I think my inner being would say from the perspective of oneness, from the perspective of love, from the perspective of higher knowing. And first thing I hear, of course, is that my inner being loves these guys, right? My inner being has no problem with two gentlemen sitting and bonding over a subject they have in common. My inner being has no problem with that. My inner being loves these guys. My inner being loves all humans. My inner being's not charged at all that these guys are in my sphere or the subject that they're talking about. It doesn't matter to them. And then I recognize or feel or hear, I don't know quite how this came through, but when I felt into the emotion, I think what happened was I'm like, okay, what negative emotion am I feeling? Because I was still feeling a negative emotion. I'm like, I agree. I love these guys. I'm grateful that they're bonding. Yeah, that's beautiful. But there's something else that was still like not feeling great. And I heard, you're feeling this way, and I say I heard, but I felt it. you're feeling this way because you are believing something that I don't believe. So my inner being pointed out to me that I was believing that because these guys were in this room with me now, it wasn't okay to continue to be me and do what I was doing. You know, reading my book and humming along to my music. I stopped doing that when these guys came in the space, you know, out of a concept of being polite and sharing space. And so part of what I was feeling negative about, and I didn't even realize this initially, was I was feeling really perturbed that these guys were being who they are, free and not worried about bothering me. And I stopped being who I was because I didn't want to bother them. And so my inner being was like, well, is it true that you have to stop being who you are right now? Is it true you have to stop singing along and reading your book in joyful bliss, which is what I was doing before they came in? And I was like, oh, well, no, it's not true. Like, if these guys can be themselves and talk about what they want to talk about, why can't I hum along to my jazz music and read my book still? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, my charge for these guys was completely gone. I was like, oh, my negative feeling really was that my inner being was trying to communicate something to me. One, stop being so judgmental. Love these guys. As you do truly at the center of your being, love all humans, because I really do. You know, despite how my reactions might cause me to act in a moment, right? And the other thing was, I'm telling myself that it's now not okay to be myself because other people are in the space with me. And that's a lie, right? That's not true. Of course I can still be myself. And so I just started humming along to my music. I'm just like, oh, all I have to do is continue to be me, and I'm no longer upset by the situation at all. So I just start humming along to my jazz music and reading my book, and about 2-3 minutes later, the one guy says to the other, hey, do you want to move to the other waiting room? The chairs look way more comfortable, and there's coffee in that room. Let's go. And so they got up and they moved. And what I take from this are so many things, but I hope this was a good example, because first I wanted to analyze why I was triggered. And I got started on all these stories that I have and all of these perceptions and all of this. When I went to my inner being and said, okay, show me what you know about this situation, so that I can release this negative emotion, what it showed me was something completely different than what I thought was going on, right? And I am finding this more and more and more every time I check in with my negative emotion and my inner being. And it's present in every moment. And it's available to all of us because we all have our own inner being. I can't tell you what your inner being is telling you. I can speak the kinds of things that my inner being speaks, but I can't really tell you for you what your guidance is, but that's beautiful. It means we don't have to go to anything outside of ourselves to get guidance, to have clarity, to understand where we can improve and how we can guide ourselves. So Abraham's work is all about manifesting the future that you desire. And they are saying that every time you desire something, your inner being is already there, already experiencing it, already knows every little person who plays a role in the unfolding of the actualization of your desire, and it guides you there in every moment. Every time you think about the subject, it's guiding you there. And if you're thinking something that doesn't agree with them, like, oh, well, I could never I can never be a content creator. Like, that's just too much work and no one wants to listen to me and I don't know how to set it up. And as I'm thinking all these things, it doesn't feel great, right? I'm feeling a negative emotion. My inner being is like, I'm already here, successfully content created for years. Just follow me. Just check in with me. Just start taking the steps that you need to learn and put yourself out there and release attachments to whether people watch you or whether they agree with you, and just do it. Right? So your inner being's always guiding you toward your desires through an ever-present, moment-by-moment feedback between what feels good emotionally and what feels negative emotionally. What doesn't feel good? What feels heavy? What feels tight? What feels painful? What feels sad? So, what else do I want to say here? Let me know if this is resonating with you guys, if you have questions, what your thoughts are. I'll definitely be speaking about this more because it's like the thing I've been telling everyone about. Like, every time a friend calls, is like, hey, how are you? I'm like, I'm learning this amazing thing about my inner guidance system and it's changing my life. And it's a paradigm shift for me because I'm looking at everything differently than I've looked at it before, and receiving moment-to-moment guidance from my being that I didn't even know was there and didn't know how to access a month ago. So it's something I'm talking about a lot. I am going to finish up the stream and share a few things, and then, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my chakra meditations that I do. So my chakra meditations are new meditation every month, every week, and every day we listen to the current meditation. It's through WhatsApp, and the chakras are energy centers in our bodies, and they can get blocked by certain energies. Different energies might be blocking them. So we go through the blocks, we release the blocks, and then we feel into the healthy, free-flowing vibration that each chakra is naturally inclined to have. So you can sign up at devotedandvulnerable.com/services. Again, it's only $14.40 a month. And you have to have WhatsApp, so you can download it and put in your phone number, and then you're kind of set to go. Okay. Also, if at any point you find what I'm offering of value to you, I do offer these streams on a donation basis because I want to reach out to you guys, connect with you guys, share with you what I know as much as possible without the limitation of needing financial compensation for my time and my guidance. However, if you find value in what it is that I share and it helps you to shift something in your life and achieve something that you've been looking to achieve, I am more than willing to receive a financial contribution, a donation, as a thank you for the value that you are getting out of these meditations, these talks, these readings that I do, these Reiki sessions, whatever it is. So to do that, to contribute, it's paypal.me/devotedvulnerable. Thank you in advance for your support. I really do appreciate it. It allows me to continue to do this. If I'm not receiving donations to do this, then I can't continue to do it. So thank you so much for the generosity and for allowing your inspiration to give to be followed. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to end this because I'm going to jump right back on and go into a video for taking you through a process of listening to your own inner being about a subject. So I'm going to end here and say namaste. The universal light within me salutes and honors the universal light within you. Namaste.